And welcome to our wonderful wisdom circle. I am so excited because we've got an incredible conversation coming up. Very quickly, my name is Sophia from Sacred You. We have the honor of hosting all these wisdom circles. Better turn off the background noise. And today I'd like to introduce our beautiful Samantha, who's facilitating this incredible wisdom circle, all on myths to feed and nourish the wild woman, because Samantha has read the wonderful book of women who run with the wolves, and is today telling us the story, the tale of the handless maiden. So, Samantha, thank you ever so much. I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce all your beautiful speakers, and I will be back at the end. I'm going to be listening in at the background, and I'll be back at the end. So, thank you ever so much for bringing this to Sacred You. It's an incredible story. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, I'm Samantha, and I will share a bit about Women Who Run with the Wolves once we've all introduced ourselves. And my work in the world is to support parents and carers of neurodivergent children. And I find that myths and stories can really be incredibly supportive of understanding our journeys, particularly in terms of grief and loss, and give us hope and show us the way, the tools to rise again. There's the descent in every good story. There's the descent, and there's an ascent, or multiple, as in the case of the handless maiden. So I'd love to hear from each of you, just briefly how you are arriving and anything you'd like to share to introduce yourself. Jo, where can we start with you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Jo Anne, and I work with women to, help them rise to the authentic being and powerful women that they are underneath all the stuff we carry on this in this human self. So primarily work with anxiety and overwhelm, but I'm moving into the space of women rising in the capacity of receiving more money, more abundance in their life. So I'm journeying that path at the moment, and I'm really happy to be here because although I haven't read the book, I'm very inspired to. But I remember the last circle was so inspiring that I had to come again and get more. So thank you, Samantha.
Thank you for being here, because without somebody to listen to the story, it's not really a story, is it? Thank you, Jo. And Rollie.
So I am from Northeastern Ontario, Canada. I am a mom of 2 adult boys and a Nookum, a grandmother of 2 beautiful little people that live right here next door. And so I work with women with anxiety, and that is who I support. And I have worked with within mental health and addictions over the last 25 years. And I also have my own experience with anxiety that I bring in, and I use what I refer to as moon medicine to be able to help bring some healing into people's lives.
Thank you, Rollie. Thank you for being here. Charlotte.
I'm Charlotte Mitchell. I'm a Western medical herbalist and a traditional Chinese herbalist, but I also am a biofield consultant, which basically means that I look at either individual people's energy and see where it's flowing, where it's working, how it's working in your life. But I also do that for businesses as well. I'm also an author and a speaker, so I try to bring practical tools for people to fulfill their potential, whoever they are.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm going to start with some words from Clarissa Pinkola Estés, who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, which was published in 1989. I think I discovered it probably about 10 years later. And it's just been a thread through my life since then. So I feel very excited that I've started sharing. I've started sharing these stories really this year, since kind of launching myself as a speaker, or exploring this new part of myself as a speaker. The doors to the world of the wild self are few but precious. I might cry during this telling as well. If you have a deep scar, that is a door. If you have an old story, that is a door. If you love the sky and the water so much you almost cannot bear it, that is a door. If you yearn for a deeper life, a full life, a sane life, that is a door. The doors to the world of the wild self are few but precious. And just to acknowledge Clarissa Pinkola Estés, she is a writer, poet, and psychoanalyst. And I wanted to use this word, cantadora, a keeper of the old stories in the Latina tradition. So part of her ancestry is Mexican. Mexican American. So I am going to ask you all to relax, to just notice your body, notice if there is any tension, notice how your breathing is, and just pay some attention to the body, to the breath for a few moments. Acknowledge that we are breathing women, breathing beings in a body, and that body is very much connected to the earth mother, and the ground from which these stories come. And I'm going to put my storytelling hat on. So there are more than 100 versions of this particular story, which tells me how incredibly universal it is, and also vital and important for us, particularly as women, to understand our journey. So it is, Clarissa Pinkola Estés takes 7 sessions to tell this story. It could be 7 weeks or 7 days, and I'm going to attempt to tell it in I don't know, we'll see how long it takes. But what I'll do, I think, in the middle is I'll take a break, and we'll see how we're going with the story at that point, and just check in with you and see what's touched you. So this happened just a few years ago, when the man down the road that used to own the mill, but now the mill had fallen into disrepair, and all he had left was a giant millstone in a shed which stood behind his house. They had really fallen on hard times. And he took up his silver-lipped axe, as he did every day, to go into the forest to gather wood, cut down trees, gather wood. And he was trudging. He was tired. This is heavy work, working with wood. And from behind a tree, all of a sudden, a strange man jumped out and said, "Why are you torturing yourself with this hard work? If you just give me what stands behind your house, I will give you all the riches and the wealth that you can possibly imagine." And the old man thought, this sounds like a good deal. There's nothing behind my house. There's just the old apple tree. And you know what? I can replace that apple tree easily. And then there's the old mill, the old grindstone. So, you know what? Yes, let's shake on it. And the moment they had shaken and agreed, he found himself transformed, and he's into this absolute beautiful finery. His clothes, his rags had been transformed. And with a spring in his step, he headed back home. His wife came along to meet him because she was also excited and shared that, wow, something's happened, and our house has changed into, it's almost a castle. It's magnificent. He said, yes, you know what? I met someone, and they said that if I just give them what's behind the house, then we'll get all this. So, oh my goodness, the wife exclaimed and was in shock. She said, but husband, our daughter is behind the house. And you know, she's the one always sweeping behind the house. Oh, they must have aged years in that moment when they realized that this man, and she said, and that man is the devil. So what could they do? They went back home, and with very heavy hearts, they shared with their daughter what had happened. And she was very resigned. She said, you know, just do with me what you will. And it says, they say that it was 3 years that the devil had said that he was going to come back in 3 years. And when he did, the young maiden got ready. She drew a big white chalk circle around her, and she put on a pure white dress. And when the devil arrived, he was just thrown back by this energy. He was unable to get near her. And he was furious. And he said to the old man, you must not let your daughter bathe at all. And I'm going to come back. I want her, you know, and I'm going to come back and get her. So she obeyed that and didn't bathe, and her fingernails were filthy. Her hair was all matted. Her dress that had been so white was now brown and a bit and very grubby. So the devil arrived to come and collect her again, but she had cried so many tears in the meantime, waiting for him, that her whole face had been washed and her whole body had been washed by her tears. And once again, when the devil tried to grab her, he was thrown back. Now he was really angry, and he told the old man, I want you to cut off her hands. The old man said, no, I could never do that to my own daughter. And the devil said, well, if you don't do that, I'm going to destroy you, your wife, your daughter everyone and everything that you have. So what choice did he have? And he took that silver-lipped axe that he had gone to cut wood with previously, and his daughter held out her arms and he cut her hands off. Now the devil showed up and again tried to claim her. But this time she had cried so much over the stumps of her arms that they had been washed clean, and he was again thrown back. So 3 times he said, he threw his hands up. I give up. You know, I have no more claim over you. This has happened 3 times. And off he went. But we will hear more from him later in the story. And so the parents said to their daughter, we now have all this wealth. We can take care of you, even though you don't have hands. But she said, no, you know what? I need to go. I need to go into the forest, and I'll bandage up my stumps with gauze, and I will go and rely on the goodness of others. And she took her hands that had been cut off, tied them onto her, and off she went into the forest. And how many of us have gone off knowing that we need to go into the unknown? We don't know what's going to happen, but there's this drive or this pull to go and find out. And we may not have a clear intention at all, but off we go. And it would have been pretty scary, I imagine, for her. And in time soon she was really hungry and thirsty, and the night came, and she continued walking, and she came across an orchard, but she couldn't actually get into the orchard because all around the orchard was a huge moat. And then appeared a spirit in white, and the spirit closed the sluice gate because, of course, she wasn't able to do anything with her arms or hands. And the moat emptied, and the spirit accompanied her across to this orchard. And in the orchard, this orchard was owned by the king. And the king kept track of every single one of these beautiful golden pears that grew in the orchard. But in spite of that, one of the trees bent down really low so that the maiden could eat easily from the tree. And she ate one of the pears. And while she was eating, the king's gardener was watching from behind a tree, a bush. He was a little bit wary because he thought they were spirits. So he watched all of this happen, and then she disappeared back over the moat and back into the forest. The next day, the king came along and counted his pears. Oh, there's one missing. Yes, said the gardener. Last night, 2 spirits came into the garden, and one of the trees bent over, and she ate the pear. Oh, okay. This is very interesting. I am going to call my magician, and he's able to talk to spirits. And you, the gardener, me, the king, and the magician, we're going to come back tonight, and we're going to see what happens. So they did that, and being so hungry and having had that delicious pear the night before, the maiden came back in the night, spirit accompanied her and she stepped over the moat or walked through the moat, and again one of the branches lowered itself and she was able to eat the pear. At that moment, the magician came close, not too close to them, and asked her, "Are you of this world or not of this world?" And the girl answered, "I was once of the world, and yet I am not of this world." And the king asked the magician, "Is she human or spirit?" The magician answered that she was both. And the king was ecstatic. This is exactly what he wanted. His heart leapt and he ran towards her. And to cut a long story short, he made her a beautiful pair of silver hands, and they were married. And I'm going to pause there because it doesn't end there. The story doesn't end there. There is not quite yet the happily ever after. But I just wanted to check in and hear how are there any feelings that come up for you in the story? Was there any moment that evoked memories or feelings for you? Anything that spoke to your heart?
Yeah, the bit where she goes out into the woods, she leaves home. It evoked a memory of my experience when my fourth child left home, and I was sitting in my house on my own and going, well, what do I do now? Like my identity had been almost stripped as a mother. I was a businesswoman at the time, but primarily, they were my life. And in the moment, I just had this download, I guess, this information that said, you don't have to stay here. You can choose to be anywhere you want to be now. And so within a couple of weeks, I'd packed up the house, put everything in storage, and went on a road trip into the unknown. I wasn't sure I knew where. I was coming up here to where I reside now, in the Byron region, and found a little cottage. And it was bliss, but it was for total faith, total trust, taking action, and not wallowing in my hose, oh, I'm home on my own with no children, victim back then. So I feel like there's this part that's, there's this part, we know that we're always being looked after, we're always being guided, but we need to take that space and time to feel and know what those next actions are, those next steps for us are. And following the divine breadcrumbs is what came to me. It's like, wow, it takes so much trust and faith, doesn't it, to pack up your life. And she did the same into the woods, unknown, and had the faith and trust. And she was led by spirit.
Yeah.
Guided by spirit, even to be fed. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Wow. And I love, that was courage. That took courage. And yeah, you didn't want to stay with the old story. And even though it meant a huge leap of faith. And that's where you ended up. So that's where you are now.
Yeah, I traveled the world a bit after that. That was 25 years or so ago. But but I ended up back here because I always felt whenever I landed the tarmac here, I felt I was coming home, and a part of me knew I'd always be back and I'd always stay. This will be my base. And yeah, it is. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Charlotte or Rollie, otherwise we'll go on.
So one of the things, so I don't have the same type of story as Jo, but for me, it's that blind faith of knowing that no matter what, she had that faith that she was still being cared for, that she still had someone that was always there to support her and to guide her. And as I continue to move into my own spirituality, it seems to be like a lifelong lesson that has been ongoing for some time and will be. But it's that knowing that even when things are not the way that we would like them to be, or that the expectations of how we wanted or saw our lives go, is that there's always something there. There's always something that that gives you that next bit of hope, that 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 you're not alone, that that you have that connection or that support of whoever it is that, and I'm saying whoever because it depends on what people believe, but like it's and for me it's that spirit, that connection. And so it just gives me that that support and that knowing that there's always that light at the end of the tunnel, even when I don't know where that tunnel is going to open up. And so yeah, so like I love how she's I just need to go into the forest, and I just need to know, I just need to follow that, and she was fed,
And
and she
rely
was
on the goodness of
parents,
others. Yeah,
right?
just
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And just a question that comes up for me, because you both, Jo and Rollie, mentioned you work with people having anxiety. My experience is that anxiety really cuts me off from that knowing and that trust and that connection, that the spirit is going to turn up, spirit is going to be there to support me. So yeah, I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions for people that have lost that trust and that knowing. And you don't need to answer me now. Maybe we can come back to it at the end. If you have something now, yeah, I'll please speak. Otherwise, give you some time to think about that. Maybe we can end with that. It's a nice, yeah, like suggestion or a call to action or something. Charlotte, did you want to say anything?
I think what struck me was that because we are tribal when we're born, from the moment we're born, and we are dependent on others, we're also dependent on their decisions. And whether their decisions that, it's our parents' decision, for example, or maybe even ancestral energy coming through, all those decisions from generations back, we're dependent on those. And that in some ways, it's easier to stay in the tribe, stay with the familiar, stay with the pattern of thinking that we've grown up with. And I think it takes a lot of courage to move from the tribal sort of group and become independent, become individual. And I think that that's where a lot of the traditional cultures had it right, because they had rites of passage that allowed people to have more of a formal way to move from, an acceptable way in a way, from the tribal element of living to the individual one.
That's right. That's right. And they supported that. Like in my Vision Quest earlier this year, there's the preparation phase in community, then going out on your own, and then coming back, the integration phase back in community. Like that is so important. Otherwise, you just, you've got no moorings, you've got no nothing to hold you. So, but we'll see in the story that she does find her community as well. So I'll go on Thank you, Charlotte. So shortly, well, we're not exactly sure how long after they got married, the king had to go away to war. And before he left, he told his mother, the queen, who was very fond of the young girl who was now the upcoming queen, that he told his mother, my wife is pregnant, please, as soon as the baby is born, let me know. And off he went. And a beautiful baby was born, and the queen mother sent the messenger off to tell the king. But it was a long, long journey, and the messenger had to rest on the way. And when he was resting, the devil came, took the message that he had to deliver and changed it. And by the time the king got it, it said, your queen, your wife, has given birth to a half dog, half person. And the king this did not, yes, it shook him a little bit, but he had vowed to stand by her, to support her, come what may. And he said, please just, send my love and take care of the child and my wife as best you can. But on the way back, the messenger again had to sleep, and the devil again changed the message to say, kill the baby. Now, when the queen got the message, and knowing how much her son loved the young woman, she was devastated. And there was no way she was going to let this happen. Anyway, she tried. She sent another message saying, what do you mean? This is crazy. And backwards and forwards, these messages went until finally one came from the devil saying, kill the baby and my wife. So what she did was and keep the heart for me. So she sent the woman out, the queen out into the forest again, and said, you've got to go and take care of yourself. I'm sorry about what's happened. And I will kill a deer, and I will present the deer heart to the king when he gets back, and say that you've been killed. So off she goes again, and after a very short time, the spirit in white joins her and shows her the way to this beautiful house full of other women also raising their children together and supporting each other. And there she lives for about the next 7 years. And during that time, while she is discovering her gifts and playing with her new baby and having these telling stories and laughing with the other women, her hands start to grow back. Firstly, they are like baby hands, and then like a teenager's hands, and finally they grow back fully into a woman's hands. And the king gets back from all his warring, and he's so looking forward to seeing his wife and child. But his mother says, Queen Mother says, but you told me to kill them, and here's their heart. Oh my goodness, what do you mean? But you told me she'd given birth to a dog, and what? And then they figured it out that the devil had intervened. So the king said, you know what? I am not going to eat or drink until I find them. And I'm going to go out into the forest. And I'm just going to wander um, and hope that I find them one day. And for 7 years, he does that, not eating or drinking. And as you can probably guess, towards the end of that period, he stumbles across this house where he says, please, can I just rest here? I'm so exhausted from my wanderings. And he lies down. And when he wakes up, he sees in front of him a woman that looks exactly like his wife. But she has hands. So at first he's very confused. But of course she recognizes him immediately and she tells him what's happened. And she introduces him to his child. And he takes her back to the castle and they have a second wedding. And all the spirits and the dwellers and they invite all the people from the house where she's been living, and they end up having a lot more children, and all these children tell the story to all their children, just like I'm telling you now. So, yeah. Just take a moment to breathe and remember what has been important for you in the story. And are there any emotions that come up, any images that have remained with you? And anyone that feels ready to, please share.
Yeah, I want to go back to the place where they first met, and she said, I am a spirit. I'm not a spirit of this earth, but I am a spirit of this earth. Was that the quote? Well, I am of this earth, or I am a spirit of this earth.
I'm not
Not of this, yeah.
I was once of the world, and yet I'm not of this world.
Yeah, okay.
I was once of the world.
That's a very profound statement, isn't it? I was once of the world and now I'm not. It's like something transformed in her after the experience of the hand chopping, and something left her. And then, so part of her had been removed, but then she found herself on that journey and guided by spirit. So there's something really deep that's resonating with me there. I was once, I want to sit with that a bit longer, but I think it's pretty profound, because we think we're on this earth as a human being. We've been programmed just to be a human being, doing all the things, creating, even the way we feel like when we leave home, we have to, do these certain things. There's certain steps to be successful. We have to get a job. We have to, whatever, have children, whatever our beliefs are when we go out into the big wide world. But there's this, it doesn't have to be that way. We can choose who we are and what we want to be on this earth. And connection with spirit and being guided, that whole piece we talked about before, is really, for me personally, is what it's about. Living as spirit on this earthly plane, in this body, temple, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I find that was really resonating with me. It's like we have choice. And we can choose to live our experiences in our own truth and choose our own path, and that we'll have faith that we'll always be looked after. But that's a process. That's a lot of shedding, isn't it? To step into that place where you can totally surrender and be guided, even to be fed. I mean, that's, yeah. It sounds a bit like my journey of my wild woman inside. I just wanted to bring that piece.
That's the idea, yeah. And if she'd stayed, you know, if she'd stayed with the parents, or if she'd stayed in the king's castle, you know, then she would have been fitting into that programming. But she needed to have the full initiation to grow her hands again, to become whole. And that required, yeah, sacrifice and like deep periods of wandering and not knowing. Yeah.
Interesting, because I gave a little talk at the weekend, and it was about spirit, and the fact that, you know, science is finally catching up with the fact that, you know, our biofield, which is energetic, of course, we know, has acoustic energy, subtle energy, is their thinking is that beautiful bridge between our body and spirit. And it's, you know, when we're born, we often totally understand spirit. You know, you see children, young children, and they automatically look around the room at something invisible. They just understand it. They know about it. And yet we then lose that, you know, and particularly through our schooling, I think at the moment, we lose that ability. And then it's almost like then we have to re-find it. But it was something we had anyway. And that, you know, constantly we are led by spirit. And I see different people live in different ways. There are some people who literally live guided by spirit. And it's just they're always listening to spirit, and they'll say, no, sorry, I can't do that. It might sound logical, but sorry, no, I'm not going to go and do that because I'm being told by my guide that no, it has to be done another way. And the interesting thing is, when some scientists were doing tests on the amount of light energy we emit from our bodies, they found that when mediums, or, you know, people who were connected to spirit said things like, oh, my guides come in, then they noticed that they could measure this burst of light that was emitted from the body. So it's just something that I think is so integral within us, but often we don't talk about it, or we don't talk about it enough.
And it reminds me of the part where the devil gets thrown back by her energy. So she was already connected to that intuitively, and then yeah, it's like that gave her the trust. Well, that was the beginning. But she needed to deepen that trust. Thank you. Rollie, did you want to?
Yeah, like to kind of add to, like I have a much different experience with having this experience with my grandson, who's 2.5. And we're very open to spirit. We're very open to the energies of the holistic things that are around us. And so when Charlotte was talking about like that whole innate part of the children and that connection, and so yesterday I was getting some crystals ready for a workshop that I was doing, and my grandson's like, oh, what's that? Because he loves the stones. And so I had the rose quartz stones out, and I had some other ones out as well, and he had come in and taken a stone from different bags, and he knew which ones it is that he wanted to take. But when I had the rose quartz stones out, he reached in and he took one, and then he walked over to his mom and he handed it to his mom, and he said, here, Mama, this is for you. you need this. And it was like, okay, like this is just, he knew that she needed this, and then came back and said, one for me, and like for himself. And so then he came back, and he didn't just pick one out of the bag. He like kind of rummaged through the bag to be able to get the one that was meant for him. And it's just, she had that sense of innocence that allowed her to just have that trust and just know. And so one of the things that I've learned, and I'm not 100% in it all the time because I am on this human plane and having this human experience, but when you were asking about the anxiety and how to be able to connect with that, is that when I connect, to just know that whatever my response is, like my body response is to whatever it is that's going on, I know that it's for my highest good. When I'm coming from that place of knowing that I'm going to be okay. Like even when I know that, even when I'm not feeling like I'm going to be okay, that there's like lots of things that are going on and bringing out that anxiety, that if I can just take a minute and come back into stillness and come back into my own body and come into my own being, and just then allow myself to make the decision, or allow myself to be able to, like, is this really what I want to be doing, or how I want to be able to do that? But I need to be in that space of just knowing that I am supported, and that whatever decision or whatever path that I choose to take, that it is the right path for me in this moment. So I may need to double back, whatever it is that's going on, but I know, and I've learned that it's taken a long time. I was diagnosed with anxiety at the age of 6. There was lots of chaos in my life. There was lots of chaos in growing up. And I'm a caretaker, so there's still a lot of there's still a lot of chaos in my life, like not on a regular basis, but I mean, like there's still things that happen that it's like I need to remember to kind of come back and check in and be in this space in this moment and just know. And so when Charlotte was talking about the children know, and I've known this for a really long time. My son, when he was 2, actually saw his grandfather, who had just passed, sitting in the corner when all the rest of us were grieving. And he's like, Grandpa's sitting over there. And so like that was my first big experience with knowing that kids know. And I see that with my grandson, and I have this experience with my grandson that is just so much different than it was with my own children, because I'm in a different place, I'm in a different space, and I'm in a different mindset. And so just being able to see that, and my heart was warm yesterday, and then having that reminder from Charlotte today, it's like, yeah, like he's so in tune. And I'm blessed that his mom has that connection as well, that we will actually be able to hopefully not allow society to take that from him, and allow him to be able to continue to grow, and that he can actually carry it with him through his lifetime, as opposed to when society has us kind of shut it down, right? So yeah, that's kind of,
and he's got something to come back to, a reference point of remembering, and was supported, so that's awesome. Yeah. Just something I wanted to add in here was, in terms of kind of how the story can guide us, is I was just thinking about initially she did draw this white circle around and put on the white dress, but then, then the devil was going to come back. So she just became dirty, like almost like an animal like. But then the tears washed her clean. And then again, having her hands cut off, and the tears washed her clean. And the tears have been my way back to spirit. So while I may not know, what rituals, and I might not, have that clear psychic awareness, or gifts, spiritual gifts, but I can, we've got tears. I know it's not easy for everyone to cry, but if you figure out, what allows you to cry, and just release that, that can be really, really helpful to move. And apparently there's even chemicals that get excreted through the tears. So the stress hormones or stress chemicals. Yeah. So
I think
yeah.
saying that what you say, Samantha, you were saying about anxiety earlier. I think that's some of the problem, because we then get shut off from the creative part of our brain, that part where we have the downloads or the aha moments. And I think, I remember people like from years and years ago, people like Chopin, the famous composer, musician. He used to go walking, and he would walk for 20 minutes in nature. And within that time, he had his next piece of music in its entirety. And then he would come back, and he would just take weeks and weeks and weeks to transcribe it, because the left side of the brain is slow compared with that part which is connected to spirit, connected to source, connected to our intuition. And so I think anxiety has a tendency to block that. And so whether you're using herbs or essential oils, or you're using nature, or whatever tools you want to use, for us, I think we're all psychic. I think we all have that ability. But it's just often the anxiety or the tension or the rushing just gets in the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
100%.
Jo, yes.
Yeah, just all that you're talking about is just so relevant, and having those tools. Like, I don't think there's any one tool, but at the end of the day, we're taking that time to release. So it's whatever works for you. And the tears are a way of releasing. The stopping and tuning in is a way of releasing. The herbs. Had my beautiful herbal tea, pure herbs I bought at the markets on Saturday, that are for the nervous system, like all these tools. And again, Rollie, my goodness, it must be in the energy at the moment. Like, I had my grandson at the market, and all he resonated with was, he's got a room full of crystals. He collects crystals. And, I just think we're so privileged to be able to have these little ones come through and have it, show them the truth of what's possible, the magic of life, and to trust themselves. And this is the story about trust. And we're all going to be in temptation, right? We're all going to be in the evil, is going to be tempting us all the time. That's just being on the planet and in this sphere. But we have these tools to bring us back, to bring us home. And it's a practice. It's, and agree with Charlotte, we're all connected. We have the ability, we just lose it when we're in those moments of anxiety or fear or temptation, whatever. But to remember just to come home with whatever works for you and trust the process. I just love this conversation. All of you ladies, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And we're gonna bring it to a close. So thank you for your wise words, everyone. Just a final sort of a message of hope that I think the story gives is that, we've all made these terrible bargains, where we've wanted to choose the easy way. We've wanted to get out of the struggle, and we've ended up, making a deal, a bargain, or perhaps, it was someone, our parents, that did that. But there is, that's just the beginning. And yes, there's a sacrifice, and there's pain and there's suffering. But that's just the beginning. And then the journey continues, like I said, up and down until we are fully fully grown adults and initiated adults. So not sure if Sophia's coming back, but let us, oh, there she is.
Yes, there I am, and thank you so much, Samantha, for a wonderful conversation. This has been great. I've been listening to as much as I can, and I'm definitely going to go back and watch the replay. I just want to honor you, Samantha. I really, really do want to honor you for bringing these tales, they're fables, they're myths, but they're so, I don't know what they're so profound and so relevant for today's world. So thank you. Thank you for bringing them to Sacred You. I look forward to the next myth. Which is so good. Yes. And also for Rollie and for Charlotte and for Jo for joining us. Just thank you. We have put everyone's links below. So do, for anyone who's watching, do click on the links below. Reach out to these wonderful women, and connect with them for all their offerings, for all their services. So thank you very much. And of course, for Sacred You, just check us out. Sacred You, it's a letter U, love. Check us out. Come and visit us. We've got some exciting things coming up, including some very special wisdom circles and panel discussions and archetype circles and so much. I'm excited. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated. Thank you.